Cole Custer and Stewart Haas Racing are set to have their appeal heard later this week. And did NASCAR uninvite Tony Stewart to Homestead Miami Speedway? We've got another silly controversy to discuss. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Today we're gonna talk about that pesky 100% rule. You know, the rule that Cole Custer and his team allegedly broke a couple weeks ago, which led to $200,000 in fines, 50 driver and owner points, an indefinite suspension for the crew chief. A lot of fans were looking at Thor Sport a little funny during Saturday's Truck Series race. We'll get to all that, but first we have a sponsor for today's show. Minutemen Coffee is unapologetically patriotic. Just like many NASCAR fans, they sent me several different flavors of their coffee to try out for myself. And I gotta say, this stuff is pretty tasty. Minutemen Coffee has also been shipping free coffee to many of America's servicemen and women. So far, they've shipped over 62 pounds of free coffee to troops abroad. They've got a special discount for NASCAR fans. If you head to their website, which the link is down in the description below, and use the code NASCAR15 at checkout, you'll get 15% off your order. Thank you to Minutemen Coffee for sponsoring this episode. We have several topics to discuss today, but they're all at least loosely connected. First, I thought this was an interesting headline this morning. Tony Stewart is set to make his drag racing debut in Las Vegas. The NHRA Nevada Nationals will be driving a top alcohol dragster. I must admit, I'm not very familiar with NHRA or drag racing, so a lot of this sounds like a foreign language to me. Tony Stewart, of course, is an NHRA team owner now. He's in his first year of team ownership. The reason I bring it up here on a NASCAR show mainly is because it's Tony Stewart, a NASCAR Hall of Famer. Many of you already know this, but when I was a kid growing up, I was not a Tony Stewart fan whatsoever. Did not care for his personality, did not like the way he raced others on the racetrack. I was a Tony Stewart hater back in grade school. But the last few years, especially since he's retired from racing NASCAR full time, I must say I have a newfound appreciation and respect for Tony Stewart. Looking back at all the different types of race cars and series he's competed in and won in, there are few race car drivers throughout history as versatile as Tony Stewart. Now he's giving drag racing a try. You gotta respect a NASCAR Hall of Famer. He's what, over 50 years old now? Continuing to go out and try new things. And that's just Tony Stewart behind the wheel as a race car driver. I also have a lot of respect for Tony Stewart, the businessman, just around the industry. He's a track owner. He's a co-owner in NASCAR. He's now an NHRA team owner. He helped co-found a completely brand new racing series that has been quite a bit of fun to watch the last couple of years. I'm talking about the SRX. I did not like Tony Stewart whatsoever as a kid. Now, as an adult, I think I fully comprehend just how important he has been and still is to the entire world of motorsports. And I think many other fans, young and old, feel the exact same way. Whenever Tony Stewart says something or does something, it is the leading headline. It generates a ton of discussion. That leads into my second topic. Remember a couple weeks ago, Tony Stewart was quoted saying he's so mad at NASCAR right now. Why? Well, at the time, his number 41 NASCAR Cup Series team had just been hit with a massive penalty. NASCAR fined Cole Custer and his crew chief Mike Shiplett $100,000 each. They indefinitely suspended Mike Shiplett. The 41 team was docked 50 driver and 50 owners points, all because NASCAR deemed they artificially altered the finish to the Charlotte Roval race a couple weeks back. One more time in case you didn't see this, late in that race, Cole Custer seemed to slam on the brakes a bit early, going down the back straightaway, allowing his playoff driver teammate Chase Briscoe to gain a couple of important spots late in the race. Over the radio, Custer's crew chief Mike Shiplett could be heard telling his driver to check up, I think you've got a flat tire. Kind of suspicious. NASCAR reviewed the data and handed out this massive penalty. Stewart Haas Racing said they would appeal, and their appeal will be held later this week. It will be heard on Thursday. After the penalty was handed out, that's when Tony Stewart was quoted saying, "I'm not going to talk about it. I'm so mad at NASCAR right now. I'm not talking about it. If it weren't for the fact I've got a couple of appearances that I have to make, I wouldn't be in another NASCAR race the rest of the year. Wouldn't waste my time." I want to pause for just a moment. We'll discuss the appeal here in just a moment, but this is now like a weekly segment, the silly drama segment. Keep that quote in the back of your mind. There was a tweet I saw from reporter Jeff Gluck this weekend. He tweeted a screenshot of the Homestead Miami weekend schedule and said, "Saw this when looking up start times for today. Tony Stewart was originally supposed to be the Grand Marshal for Homestead and give the command to fire engines. However, country singer Kip Moore, who is also doing a pre-race concert, will now give the command instead. This was announced Friday. And you can see, I believe this is the original schedule, NASCAR Hall of Fame driver and owner Tony Stewart is listed to give the command. That did not end up happening. So whose decision was it to swap out Tony Stewart just before the weekend? Was this a NASCAR decision? If so, I can't say I'd blame them. Tony Stewart said himself he doesn't want to go to another race this year, so if you're NASCAR, why would you force him to come out? They're doing him a favor. Tony Stewart said he's so mad at NASCAR. Boy, if I'm NASCAR, I wouldn't want to give that man a mic in front of, 30, 40,000 fans and an entire national TV audience. I don't know that I'd want to risk it, so I kind of get it if NASCAR did in fact uninvite him. But we don't know if it was a NASCAR decision. It may have been Tony Stewart deciding to uninvite or decline himself. Tony Stewart has brushed off NASCAR before. Remember, he effectively pulled Eldora off the Truck Series schedule once he found out Bristol Dirt was going to be a thing. So maybe Tony Stewart said, hey, I'm not in the mood, go find someone else. I don't know, I don't think we'll ever know for sure. Now, I did see some clips and photos on social media. Tony Stewart was there on Sunday. He was at the track. He just never gave the command. So, I don't know, just silly drama. Last week it was Mark Martin upset with Jack Roush. This week it's who uninvited whom. I don't know, that was just a brief but somewhat interesting tangent. Back to the appeal. Let's get back on topic. Stewart Haas Racing is appealing that Cole Custer penalty this Thursday. Will they win? Honestly, I have no idea. Looking at other major appeals this year, and I know every panel is a little different, but they upheld the L2 penalty that RFK and Brad Keselowski got. But a behavioral penalty in the William Byron case a few weeks ago, they chose to remove much of the penalty. They rescinded the points penalty completely, even though they determined Byron did break the rules. So how will they rule in this case? Will they lessen the penalty at all? I honestly have no clue. Why? Because the 100% rule, as it's known, is one of the most incomprehensible rules perhaps in all of professional sports. Here is the rule. NASCAR requires its competitors to race at 100% of their ability with the goal of achieving their best possible finishing position in the event. Any competitor who takes action with the intent to artificially alter the finishing positions of the event or encourages, persuades, or induces others to artificially alter the finishing positions of the event shall be subject to a penalty from NASCAR. Artificially alter shall be defined as actions by any competitors that show or suggest that the competitor did not race at 100% of their ability for the purpose of changing finishing positions in the event in NASCAR's sole discretion. We all know what it's trying to prevent. It's trying to prevent another 2013 Richmond, where you have guys being called down pit road for no reason, guys spinning out suspiciously, you have other teams negotiating behind the scenes, money exchanging hands in exchange for positions on the track between teams. That's what it's meant to prevent, and I get it. But it's extraordinarily vague and seems to be selectively enforced. The rule once again was put under the microscope this past weekend during the Truck Series race when Ben Rhodes advanced to the championship 4 by 1 point thanks to holding off two of his ThorSport teammates, Christian Eckes and Matt Crafton, two trucks that seemed to be faster than Rhodes in the closing laps. The first driver who was eliminated, Stuart Friesen, said this after the race, quote, "I didn't have a teammate to lay over and give me an extra point." NASCAR said they would review the incident but didn't anticipate any penalties or any ruling coming down. I guess we'll know for sure tomorrow, Tuesday. That's the final penalty report day. But it got many fans questioning, well, hey, what crosses the line? What actually breaks the 100% rule? It seems like there's a difference between just letting someone pass you versus choosing not to pass someone. See the Eric Jones, don't pass him Jones deal from a couple years back. But it also seems to matter what you're told over the radio. If the team tells you to go out and do something, that's a potential penalty. But if you just take it into your own hands as the driver and go do something, that's not. That seems to be the standard NASCAR has laid down in recent years, but that's not what's written in the rule book. So I guess the question is, should NASCAR do away with the 100% rule, or should they modify it significantly, add a lot more specific wording, specific examples and instances to it to make it more clear? Is that even possible? Would that even help? This is a lot of speculation, I suppose, but I think it's a fair question. Ever since it was implemented, the 100% rule has been notoriously vague. Teams have been skirting the line for years ever since it was implemented. A few have crossed it. I don't know, it just feels like nearly every single playoffs, every single year, sometimes multiple times a year, this comes into play and it becomes a controversy and nobody really knows what the right answer is because the rule is written very vaguely in the rule book. It's not very specific. It leaves a lot up to NASCAR's judgment, and NASCAR's judgment is known to change seemingly on a weekly basis. Anyway, share your thoughts down in the comment section below. I know we took a weird route to get to the 100% rule discussion, but thanks for joining me on this journey. That's gonna do it for this episode. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any future NASCAR content. We've got some exciting things to announce later this week. As always, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. I truly appreciate your very generous support each and every month. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.